For this segment, let's everybody grab our bow suspension kit and let's connect to a secure low anchor point.
A fairly basic squats and calves raise combination for this exercise. So starting with your feet at shoulder width, nice and parallel, your knees dropping right over your feet and just making sure we're not hyperflexing, pushing right up, and as you get to the top of the squat, we're going to add some calves raises in there as well. And then returning back down into that squat position, nice slow controlled movement as you do it. Your turn to try this one for yourself. Suspending back and working some lunges for this exercise with static feet. So once you find your lunge position, there's no more movement in your feet, and it's just a matter of doing the lunge repetitions on one side and then changing over and hitting the other side. So for balance, make sure that your feet are at shoulder width and make sure that your lunge is lengthy enough so that you're not hyperflexing your front knee. No rowing with the arms. So the arms are remaining soft, straight, and they're just assisting you with suspending yourself back throughout your exercise. Your turn to try this one. Bent over alternate side squats for this exercise. Now this is a fantastic stretch and it's a fantastic exercise for your adductors inside of your legs. Very important to make sure that you're keeping the cables nice and tight by pulling back on them the whole time. And whilst you're leaning forward and trying to get that horizontal upper body going, you've got to still make sure that your back remains nice and neutral so we're not hunching over. Now, allow your body to drop inside of your knee as you drop into those side squats and alternate from side to side for the duration of the set. Your turn to try this one. Suspended get-up squats for this exercise. So this is basically like a regular squat, except you're going all the way down until your butt's sitting on the floor for this one. Now you've got to make sure that you start with your feet at shoulder width and they've got to be nice and parallel. And as you drop down, you've got to make sure that your knees drop right over your feet so that they're not pushing out or caving in at all. And then arms are remaining soft straight, so there's no rowing motion or there's no any additional assistance with the arms, and just making sure that your back's remaining nice and neutral throughout. Your turn to try it. Sumo Deadlift for this exercise. Now this is a fantastic exercise for your hamstrings and for your back as well. You've got to make sure that when you're dropping into the deadlift, you're keeping the cable nice and tight, and then you're making sure that your back remains neutral throughout the whole thing. As you drop down, make sure you're looking forward, because this is going to encourage right form throughout. And you can see that Coach Levi has his toes pointing out and legs are quite wide for this one. Your turn to try it for yourself. Alternate courtesy lunges for this exercise. So very similar to when you're doing your alternate lunges, except this one's at an angle. So you can see that Coach Levi is producing an angle to really emphasize on the outer glutes on this one. So making sure there's no rowing with the arms. Arms are just remaining soft straight and you're remaining suspended. And when you're dropping back into a nice lengthy lunge and just making sure that you're retaining a vertical shin bone with your front leg. Your turn to try this one. Working a suspended isometric squat for this exercise, but we're going to make it a little bit trickier. We're going to get onto the ball of the foot and we're going to do the exercise from there. So your heels are going to be nice and high. Make sure you've got good engagement of both the quadriceps and the calves, and we're just going to remain static for the rest of the exercise. Your turn to try this one. Working some inversions with a stiff leg for this exercise. So starting with your feet in the stirrups and your arms in that 45-degree position, pushing down on the floor with your hands and lifting up with straight legs. So what this is going to do is it's going to take some of the pressure off your back and it's going to put it on your hamstrings. So you're really going to start to feel this in your hamstrings and your glutes and somewhat in your lower back as well. Lift all the way up and drop back down until your tailbone touches the ground and go again. Your turn. We're working a can opener from a supine position for this exercise. So we're starting with our legs nice and straight and vertical whilst you're lying flat on the floor. And then we're just going to push those legs out with straight knees until you get that really good stretch in the adductors. Now make sure the motion is steady and controlled, and just make sure that the knees remain straight throughout the exercise. Your turn to try it. We're going to lift into a glutes bridge, and from that position we're going to start to just work some butterflies. So that's just a fluttering of the knees in and out. Now the trick with this exercise is that after 15 or 20 seconds you're going to want to drop your hips. So very important that we don't do that. So you keep your glutes and your lower back engaged, and make sure your hips remain high while you're working your butterfly flutters. Your turn to try this one. side step wide squats for this exercise. So we're going to drop down into a squat height, and we just want to try and maintain an upright posture as much as we can. And then all we're doing is stepping to the side. Step once to the left, bring your feet together, and then go to the right and bring your feet together as well. You can see my squats are fairly lengthy strides that I'm taking with these. So you guys make sure you do the same thing. Jumping into alternating lunges for this exercise. So you can see that I'm just jumping on the spot and just going from a left lunge to a right lunge. Now, what you've got to make sure you do is you've got to stay nice and light on your toes and try and keep a nice upright posture for this one. Your turn to try it. Working some hops with hips rotation on this one. So you can see that I'm using my hands to assist me in order to get that rotation from the hips to the torso. Stay nice and light on your toes. Your turn. Basic hips raise for this exercise. So you can see I've got my feet at shoulder width and I'm lifting all the way up to a point where I'm going past straight line from my knee to my shoulder. Now you can see my hands are on the floor for support as well, so you're welcome to do that too. Your turn to try this one. working a donkey kick and a side knee raise from a 3 points position for this exercise. So pushing those donkey kicks up with your knees locked in tight and your heels pushing towards the ceiling. And then when you come back, we're going to work the side knee raise with maximum range of movement without moving your hips. So you've got to try and keep your hips nice and square for this one. Let's hit one side and then switch it up and do the other side as well. Your turn. Okay, dropping down into a deep sumo squat to start this exercise. Make sure your knees are out, make sure your toes are pointing out 45 degrees. And then we're going to sustain our height and start to work alternate calves raises. So you can see when I'm doing mine, trying to keep our body as stationary as we can. And pretty much the only thing that's moving is the foot that's lifting off the ground. Your hips are remaining the same height as is the rest of your body. Your turn to try this one. Let's hop into some in and out squats for the next 30 seconds. Your turn. Let's all run on the spot with high knees for the next 30 seconds. Your turn. Okay, getting into some deep, slow squat for this one, and then on the way up, we're just gonna add a jump to it, okay? Now just make sure you're fairly light on your toes, so just jumping and landing on the toes rather than the heels, because we just want to try and preserve the knees. Working your way all the way down again into that deep squat, and just keep jumping at the end of each squat. Your turn to try it. Jumping jacks for this one. So nice and light on your toes and protect your knees. Your turn. Well done for finishing your workout, guys. Please take a few minutes to stretch and cool your body down now. If you enjoyed this workout segment, please assist us by liking and sharing. Remember to subscribe for your daily workout fix.